welcome back to Saturday Sermons, guys. Today's sermon is going to be coming from 2 Kings chapter 19, and it's kind of just overall the whole chapter, no specific verses. There were some that stood out to me though when we read it last night, so I want to talk about them today. Just things that stood out to me. So basically we got this battle going on. We've got this king, I think his name is Sennacherib, and he's like the Assyrian king of the army or something. They're coming to attack. So throughout this latest chapter, they got this whole thing going on where, so we have King Hezekiah too, and but King Sennacherib is sending like taunts, basically is taunting the other army. He's like, hey, sending these messages and letters or whatever and stuff through different reporters, and he's like, hey, basically, your God is not gonna come through. He's I'm gonna defeat you. You know, unlike what your God is saying that he's gonna let you defeat me. No, I'm defeating you. Okay, so that's what he's saying. So he's sending these different taunts. Hezekiah is receiving them, and but then at the same time, Hezekiah's officials are coming to Hezekiah with news from like Isaiah, you know, giving them hope, saying yes, God is gonna, you know, pull through for you, even though the other king is saying, no, God's not going to come through. Because the king, from what he's seen, why this king of Assyria has so much confidence in himself is because he thinks that God isn't going to win just like the other gods. But the thing is, the other people he's defeated, like he's listing like, hey, I defeated this city, their God didn't show up. I defeated that city, their God didn't show up. Okay? And so he's like, well, why would your God show up? You know, I'm going to defeat you. But that's the thing. He was dealing with false gods. Of course they didn't show up. They were fake. They were made out of wood or stone. Our God is alive, you know, in heaven fighting for us every day. So like, but he don't know that. He don't know that. So the king of Syria, that's why he's confident. Anyway, let's move on to this part down here. You know, Hezekiah, another thing, I'm just going to point out little things that stood out to me. So, Hezekiah got these letters. So, after getting these taunts, he goes up to the temple of the Lord. And I liked how this worded it. He went up to the temple of the Lord and spread it out before the Lord. Before he starts telling the Lord and praying to him about what's going on. Because, yeah, he just got all these taunting letters from Sennacherib, and he's like, he spreads it out before the Lord. I liked how I worded that. So, when we have a problem, we don't need to panic, we don't need to worry, we got other people taunting us, we got the enemy putting lies in our face. No, whatever we're going through in life, we need to come and we need to spread it out before the Lord. Be like, hey Lord, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm leaving it for you, okay? Now we're gonna talk about it. So he does that, he prays to the Lord, he's like, you know, listen to the words that Sennacherib has to ridicule the living God, you know, like, this is what's going on. And then anyway, Isaiah comes and sends a message to Hezekiah, and he says, this is what the Lord has spoken against Sennacherib. So this is what the Lord's message through Isaiah is to this Sennacherib who is ridiculing God. So this part stood out to me. The Lord is saying to Sennacherib, and you have said, with my many chariots I have ascended the heights of the mountains, the utmost heights of Lebanon. I have cut down its tallest cedars, the choicest of its junipers. I have reached its remotest parts, finest of the forests. I have dug wells in foreign lands and drunk the water there. With the soles of my feet I have dried up all the streams of Egypt. He's like bragging about all the things he's done. Okay, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. Well, then the Lord says, have you not heard? Long ago I ordained it, in days of old I planned it. Now I have brought it to pass that you have turned fortified cities into piles of stone. Their people, drained of power, are dismayed and put to shame. They are like plants in the field, like tender green shoots, like grass sprouting on the roof, scorched before it grows up. But I know where you are and when you come and go and how you rage against me. And so I like how the Lord says that basically he gave him, the Lord is saying, hey, you say you did this, but I ordained it long ago. I gave you the strength to do that. And yet this is the same guy, Sennacherib, who was talking against the Lord, and like he got the power from himself and being like, hey, your Lord can't do anything, blah blah blah, and all that. And then the Lord comes and says, I gave you the power to do that. Like, the Lord gave Sennacherib the power to defeat those other things, and yet he was acting like the Lord couldn't do anything and he was the one doing all. I think it was just a good thing. It stood out to me, and it was like the way that sometimes even not just Sennacherib, us now, sometimes we'll be like, it's kind of the trap of being like proud. When we get caught up thinking, I can do this, or I did this, look at these big things I've done. And the Lord's not big enough to do that, and we're like underestimating his power. And yet he's the one, you know, God hears this and knows it when we're thinking it and stuff. And we don't need to get caught in the trap of that pride and stuff. We need to remember God is the one, he's our maker, and he gives us the strength to do everything that we do. And we don't need to forget that. Let's not be like Sennacherib. Let's be like Hezekiah and take our things before the Lord, spread them out for him. And just taking these things from 2 Kings chapter 19, I think I had a lot to offer, just considering it was a random chapter in 2 Kings we were reading last night, and it just had some things that stood out. So, good things to take to mind.